Hi, welcome to Natilik Live with me, Ian Anderson, Practice Director for Network and Data Center Technologies here at Natilik. Today I'm joined by Rob Price of Cisco. He's a CTO for the UK Partner Organisation. And we're going to be talking about the Network Intuitive, or Cisco's software-defined access solution. So Rob, you were here 15 months ago when Cisco announced the Network Intuitive. Can you tell us a little bit about what Cisco saw as a requirement for that?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, a lot's changed in the last 15 months. Obviously, firstly, 15 months ago, it was an announcement. Now, 15 months later, we're having to make it real. We're having to actually deploy these things for our customers, and I'm pleased to say that we're doing so very successfully. But to answer your question, I guess it's a question I get asked quite a lot. What was the problem statement that we were trying to address with the Network Intuitive launch? And the reality is, if you look at the way we've designed, as an industry, not just Cisco, as an industry, we've designed networks, it really hadn't changed fundamentally for a very, very long time, probably about 25 years. If you think about it, 25 years ago, we had a whole plethora of networking technologies, older Ethernet technologies, stick Ethernet, thin Ethernet, you then had token ring, FDDI, things like campus ATM, for goodness sake, a whole plethora of technologies, and made worse by a whole plethora of protocols that sort of sat above them, IP, IPX, DECnet, AppleTalk, Banyan Vines, things like that, stuff that makes me shudder to even think about. And about 25 years ago, it all consolidated down to our networks, certainly our campus networks, were going to be structured, twisted pair cabling, Ethernet based, and the predominant protocol ever since has been IP. So the problem is, at that point, network design, how we designed, deployed, and operated networks kind of froze. And hasn't really changed much since. And the reality is, you can take a network design or a network diagram from 25 years ago and a network diagram from today, and they will look about the same. The protocols will be about the same, the resilience protocols, the routing protocols, the topologies, and the only real difference is that today the boxes are a bit faster. Now, here's the problem. In that intervening 25 years, the demands that are being placed upon the network have changed beyond all recognition. And that falls into a number of areas. The user population, 25 years ago, if you were a knowledge worker, you probably went to an office and sat at a desk in front of a desktop PC, so you were very deterministic. You knew exactly where you were because that's where we'd put the PC. Today, if you're a knowledge worker, and by the way, we all are, you expect to be able to get access to your data and applications wherever you are, whenever you want them, via whatever device comes to hand and is most convenient. How does that 25-year-old network design philosophy cope with that? The reality is not very well. Then if you add to that the whole concept of the Internet of Things, which is now really gathering pace, there are some estimates suggesting that over 1 million new things attached to the network every hour. Networks 25 years ago were designed with probably tens of thousands of endpoints in mind for a big corporate network, maybe hundreds of thousands, not tens of millions. And that's the reality of where we are today. So same question, how does the 25-year-old network design cope with that? Not very well. If you then add to that, and you can't have an IT talk these days without talking about cloud somewhere. The reality is 25 years ago, data sets and applications sat at the core of the network in a private data center and the whole network pointed at it. Today, our data and applications sit in a whole host of different places. Some might be in your private cloud, some might be in a public provider like an AWS or a Google, others might be in an IaaS provider, others might be pure software as a service. Same question, how does that 25-year-old network design philosophy cope with getting those users that we don't know where they are over an extremely congested network because of the Internet of Things to a set of data and applications that we also don't know where they are? And again, the reality is it doesn't do that very well. If you then add to really twist the knife onto the top of that, that network is going to be under constant attack because cybercrime is now so prevalent that network is going to be under constant attack. That's why we really needed to fundamentally rethink how we design networks. And that really is the crux of what we announced 15 months ago with the Network Intuitive.
Okay, so I lived and breathed that world for 25 years, so I know the changes that have happened. Tell me, what does the Network Intuitive do to help with that?
So it's a couple of things. Firstly, some new capabilities that we haven't really had before. So the ability, for example, using software-defined access to micro-segment the network at a really granular level, not based on IP address, which obviously then gives you a sort of geographical constraints, but based on things like a user or a device type. So we can create a software-defined access group of Internet of Things, for example, and then within that you could put your IP connected lighting, you could put your IP connected HVAC systems, your door access control systems, etc. So that's a capability that we've not really had before. But actually a lot of the capability that we've had for quite a long time in networking, what Network Intuitive does is makes it much more easy to access. And I'll give you an example. Take what I would consider to be a relatively simple network capability like quality of service, the ability to differentiate between different types of traffic and prioritize them accordingly. The reality is, over that 25-year period, most customers fall into one of two categories. Category one, never bothered to use quality of service. The network's got enough bandwidth, everything will probably be okay. Bit dangerous, but a lot of customers have done that. Customer number two did deploy quality of service, but they did it once when they first put the network in place, and ever since then have left it alone and don't change it. So the problem that creates is you've got a pretty valuable capability that, because it is so complex to access and to make changes to, people don't. So let me give you a quick scenario. Let's say I'm a sales director and you're my CIO. I come into your office close to the end of the quarter and say, look, it'd be really good if we could just up the priority on the CRM application just for the next couple of days so that we can close as much business as possible because it's quarter end. At which point all the colour drains from your face, because there's no way in the world you can achieve that quickly and efficiently and safely. The reality is it would take a long time, it would cost a lot of money, and the risk of going to hundreds of individual network devices and making changes to the configuration is very high, because you've only got to get it wrong on one or two of those devices, and you risk making the situation worse rather than better. Yeah. With the Network Intuitive and this sort of, a software-defined controller-based approach, I should be able to go to a list of applications that have been discovered by my controller, select the one that I want, CRM, select the policy that I want to apply to that, in this case, let's say quality of service, and then simply implement it. That gets pushed down to the fabric, the SDA fabric, that pushes it down to the individual devices underneath, and you've just achieved exactly what the sales director wanted you to achieve in a couple of mouse clicks, not in days of toil and and risk, etc., etc. So for me, it's not about removal of complexity. It's about access to complex features that you can then make that access easier, and people will actually start using the features and capabilities much more fully than they've done in the past.
That's brilliant. The days of sitting in front of a CLI for days on end are gone.
Well, they're going. I wouldn't say, let's not get carried away. They're probably not gone, but they're certainly, if this technology, continues to be, to take off, in the way that we hope it will. And by the way, I should add a shameless plug. I know, I'm sorry, Ian. Cat9K, which is the sort of the underpinning hardware for the Network Intuitive, is the fastest ramping product in Cisco's history. So the market absolutely approves of what we're trying to do here. And yes, absolutely. If we can, get wholesale deployment of these solutions, then hopefully the command line interface will be a thing of the past. Brilliant. Won't that be great?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, thanks very much, Rob.
Pleasure.
So thanks for everyone for listening. If you want to find out more, reach out to your account manager if you're a client of Natilik's or natilik.com, and we can definitely come and help you.